ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Porto Novo. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Striking academic staff of Nigerian universities accuse government of neglect.
I actually thought we were dealing with a sincere set of people, especially in the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education, led by the minister, has not been sincere to us.
But the Education Ministry says the strike is needless. We will bring you the details. Vote counting continues in Cameroon's presidential election. Côte d'Ivoire's opposition alliance defies government's ban and insists on protesting Ouattara's fourth-term bid.
At this point, the combined efforts of the opposition represent a strong force that could have a real impact if they truly decide to mobilize.
It's not the marches themselves that threaten the campaign, but rather the possible excesses and unrest that might arise from them.
Mali imposes a visa ban on Americans in a reciprocal move against the U.S. government. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast this evening. We begin in Nigeria, where the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, which started a 2-week nationwide strike today, is accusing the government of neglect. ASU is demanding improved conditions of service, payment of salary arrears, the sustainable funding of universities, among others. WADR can report that the strike is affecting public universities across the country, leaving students stranded. However, the government believes the industrial action is needless. Christopher Teacher has the details in this report.
The union's national president, Professor Crispy Wuna, said the Nigerian government has consistently ignored the education sector in general and the welfare of Nigerian academics in particular. He maintains, despite several rallies and press engagement by the Academic Staff Union of Universities in both federal and state universities, there has been no redress from the government.
Our action has led to benefits in terms of the conditions of learning for students. Is it only strike that will make these things happen? We have tried everything. I actually thought we were dealing with a sincere set of people, especially in the Ministry of Education. I must admit that I feel woefully. The Ministry of Education, led by the minister, has not been sincere to us.
However, the Minister of Education, Tunji Alausa, said the federal government has addressed every request made by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. Minister Alausa added that there was no need for the union to go on strike. As the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, embarks on a 2-week warning strike, the federal government emphasized that the no work, no pay policy remains an existing labor law of the country. The government reaffirmed that it will not abandon its responsibility to uphold fairness and accountability in the use of public resources.
Christopher Teacher voiced that report. In Côte d'Ivoire, the PPACR and PDCR opposition alliance has called on its supporters to continue street demonstrations. These protests are in opposition to President Alassane Ouattara's fourth-term candidacy taking place in the midst of the election campaign. According to figures released by the Ivorian Ministry of the Interior, more than 230 demonstrators were arrested on Saturday during the opposition march. Atiewin Mbila has the rest of the details.
The Ivorian political landscape was particularly charged over the weekend. Between campaign activities and opposition protests, the streets of the capital were lively. Despite police intervention, the joint PDCI-PPACI front remains determined and insists on continuing its demonstrations. According to Ivorian political analyst Serge Patrick de Souza, this attitude could disrupt the smooth conduct of the electoral campaign.
At this point, the combined efforts of the opposition represent a strong force that could have a real impact if they truly decide to mobilize. We've already seen scattered demonstrations across the country and the effect they've had. This could potentially disrupt the ongoing electoral process. However, there is still time to ease tensions and bring everyone to the table for dialogue, because ultimately, what matters most is the national interest of Côte d'Ivoire.
In contrast, political analyst Jabiga Soro believes these demonstrations will not affect the momentum of the ruling government. He says they will have no significant impact on the ongoing electoral process.
It's not the marches themselves that threaten the campaign, but rather the possible excesses and unrest that might arise from them. Beyond that, it's a matter of the opposition's front strategy. Whether or not they choose to participate in the vote is their decision. Meanwhile, another faction of the opposition remains actively involved in the campaign. The ruling party continues its activities, and the Electoral Commission is carrying out its mandate as planned.
Tensions remain high in the context of the election campaign. While the PDCI-PPACI front maintains its protests, Ivorian authorities are warning demonstrators against violence and disturbances to public order.
A report from WADR's Marcel Ariston Blay in Abidjan, voiced by Atiewen Mbila. More on electoral matters. Vote counting is still ongoing in Cameroon following Sunday's presidential election, which drew more than 8 million voters. The Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanga Nji, said the election was largely conducted peacefully without a major incident across all 360 municipalities. Atanga Nji warned candidates against declaring results outside the legal framework but gave no turnout figures. However, some irregularities were reported by observers, particularly in Douala, where voters struggled to locate polling stations. Local media also reported clashes in Gawa, near the home of candidate Issa Choman Bakari, between security forces and opposition supporters. 12 candidates, including Nkuben Paul Biya, who seeks an 8th term, contested the poll. The Constitutional Council has until October 26 to announce the final results. Let's now focus our attention to the Central Sahel region, particularly in Mali, where the authorities have tightened the conditions for obtaining certain types of visas for Americans wishing to travel to the Sahelan country. The measure, announced during the weekend, comes in response to Washington's decision to require a financial bond from Malian visa applicants. Bamako condemns the U.S. decision as unilateral and is applying the principle of reciprocity. Imo Edit reports.
Mali is now requiring American travelers heading to Bamako to also pay a financial bond. The U.S. measure, which takes effect on October 23, applies to Malians seeking business or tourist visas. Applicants will now have to post a bond of between $5,000 and $10,000 to obtain a visa. The policy is part of a pilot program targeting potential holders of B1 and B2 visa types. The move quickly drew a response from the Malian authorities. In a statement, Mali's Ministry of Foreign Affairs described the U.S. decision as a violation of the 2005 bilateral agreement, which provided for the issuance of a long-term multiple entry visas between the two countries. In reaction to what it considers a unilateral move, Bamako has invoked the principle of reciprocity. The government has therefore decided to impose the same conditions and requirements on American nationals as those applied to Malians by the United States. The ministry also emphasized that Mali has always maintained exemplary cooperation with Washington, particularly in combating irregular migration and promoting human dignity. Despite its firm response, Bamako sought to reassure both sides. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs reaffirmed Mali's commitment to continue dialogue and to maintaining fruitful and respectful cooperation with the United States.
Bamako correspondent Aliu Cham's report presented by Imo Edit.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Crossing over to neighboring Niger, the Solidarity Fund for the Safeguarding of the Homeland has raised just over 32 billion CFA francs after 2 years of existence. It is an initiative by the transitional authorities aimed at encouraging citizens to contribute to effort against the jihadist fight. Created in October 2023, the Solidarity Fund for the Safeguarding of the Homeland continues to exert efforts to eradicate terrorists on Niger's territory. Sankule Janko has the details in this report.
22.7 billion CFA francs were mobilized by Nigerians to participate in the war effort. The FSSP, the Solidarity Fund for the Safeguarding of the Homeland, launched in October 2023, has achieved satisfactory results. Reki Hassan Jamakoi is president of the FSSP.
We took the opportunity to present all the mobilized resources and the use that has been made of these resources of the creation of the fund to date, and at the same time we were able to exchange lessons learned and perspectives.
While the authorities have achieved satisfactory results, other observers find the amount raised insignificant compared to Burkina Faso and Mali. Abdoulaye Moumini Maiga is a Nigerian civil society activist.
It is enough to see what is happening in Burkina Faso in relation to the reduction of the trained life of the state, which is not the case here. Do you remember the controversy at the level of? The majority of Nigerians have raised their shield to say no. Niger has other priorities than harassing certain citizens. I think that even if we can understand it, it cannot justify the lack of anguish.
To raise more funds, the president of the FSSP announces new initiatives, including institutionalized levies on consumer products such as cigarettes and beer.
Sankule Janko with the details of Mutala Suberu's report from Niamey. From the Central Sahel region, we head to Guinea as an investigation is underway into recent deadly protests at a mining site in Yagazola located in the northeastern region of the country. The probe was launched during the weekend by the ruling military government. The incident occurred in early October and has led to several dozen people being charged. Francis Boniface reports.
The events took place on October 4 in Nyagasola, northeastern Guinea, specifically at the site of the mining company, Whaling Mining. A protest against the company's gold extraction operations in the area turned tragic. The provisional toll stands at 2 dead and several injured. In terms of property damage, 14 vehicles, including one belonging to the gendarmerie, were set on fire, and several items were looted. In a statement, the Sigiri prosecutor's office announced that 60 people have been charged with alleged arson, theft, and murder. The prosecutor further explained that the protest was organized to demand the withdrawal of summons issued to 20 people and the release of 17 others arrested on September 24. Those individuals are under investigation for, quote, vandalism, theft, and destruction of property at the same site, end of quote. The gold mining town of Sigiri, located in northeastern Guinea, has been facing increasing tensions. The region is also struggling with widespread illegal gold mining. In July, the Guinean government banned all forms of artisanal, traditional, or mechanized gold mining across the country, a measure aimed at addressing the environmental degradation observed in the Sigiri area.
Francis Boniface reporting there. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Striking academic staff of Nigerian universities accuse government of neglect, but the Education Ministry says the strike is needless. Vote counting continues into Cameroon's presidential election. Côte d'Ivoire opposition alliance defies government's ban and insists on protesting Ouattara's fourth-term bid. Mali imposes a visa ban on Americans in a reciprocal move by U.S. government. Still ahead in the news, we have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for being with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Let's now take you to Liberia, where the National Police is under public scrutiny following the death of Matthew Moba, a Liberian citizen who allegedly suffered mental illness. The incident, which took place in Congo Town, Monrovia, is generating widespread condemnations, with accusations of excessive force and a lack of appropriate de-escalation tactics leveled against the police. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
According to Inspector General of Police Gregory Coleman, the incident began when officers responded to a call reporting a police officer had been stabbed. Coleman stated that upon arrival, officers encountered Moba allegedly armed with a cutlass and a concealed knife. The police claimed Moba ignored repeated verbal commands and subsequently stabbed 2 officers, leading a 3rd officer to discharge their weapon, resulting in Moluba's death.
The suspect and the injured officers were all rushed to the JFK Medical Center, where one officer remains in critical condition, and following the emergency treatment, the suspect was pronounced dead.
However, this account is being strongly challenged. Beauty Bronskin, a family link, has publicly refuted the police declaration of Moluba as a suspect, asserting that he was not involved in any criminal activity.
He was a victim. He was never a suspect because he was a quiet young man. If that man had used this machete on any one of your officers, they would have been amputated by now. You can't go open fire on armed men and say he will not hurt no policeman or mental ill person. Once you bring violence to them, they feel unsafe with you. Don't you know that, Mr. Aji?
A civil society group, the Solidarity of Trust for a New Day Stand, is demanding the immediate dismissal and prosecution of police Aji Greco Coleman and the officers responsible. The death of Matthew Moba has become a focal point for broader systemic issues in Liberia, including police accountability, the application of force, and the treatment of individuals with mental health conditions. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Meanwhile, Liberian President Joseph Boakai has urged African leaders to prioritize justice, reconciliation, and community-driven solutions as foundations for lasting peace across the continent. Addressing the second Lomé Peace and Security Forum at the weekend, he reflected on Liberia's path from conflict to stability, stressing the link between national reconciliation and regional peace. The Liberian leader called for unified African-led strategies to address violent extremism, coups, inequality, and climate-related displacement, highlighting the crucial roles of ECOWAS and the African Union in conflict prevention. Here is an extract of President Boakai's speech.
Weak institutions breed instability. Liberia has therefore prioritized good governance, the rule of law, and human rights. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission revealed how corruption, exclusion, and institutional failure became the root causes of conflict. To address these systemic issues, my government is implementing reforms to promote responsive governance, accountability, and equitable development. We believe that institutional reform and economic renewal must go hand in hand to correct the past injustices and secure a better future for all Liberians. Your Excellencies, we gather here at a defining moment for our continent. Across Africa, from the Sahel to the Horn, from the Great Lakes to the Mara River Basin, peace and stability have been tested by old and new challenges. Coups, violent extremism, and resource-based conflict continue to threaten our collective security. At the same time, misinformation, climate change, economic inadequacy, and inequality are deepening fragility. But Africa must never be defined by a crisis. We must be defined by courage. We have the wisdom, the resilience, and the creativity to shape our own destiny.
Liberian President Joseph Boakai. Elsewhere, the Ghana Maritime Authority has confirmed a boat accident on the Volta Lake near Kate Kwache in the Oti region, which claimed 15 lives, including 11 children. The incident occurred on Saturday when an overloaded passenger boat capsized while returning from a funeral. An investigative team made up of maritime safety inspectors and personnel from the Navy Task Force in Damba has been dispatched to determine the exact cause of the incident and identify any safety violations. NAD editor reports.
The Ghana Maritime Authority says preliminary findings indicate that the boat was severely overloaded beyond its safe capacity, leading to the deadly accident. Of the 15 victims, 11 were children, aged between 2 and 14 years, 5 boys and 6 girls, while the remaining 4 were adults, comprising 3 women and 1 man. 4 others survived. The tragedy occurred around 1:30 p.m. as the boat carrying passengers from Okuma to Bovime in the Karachi West District capsized mid-journey. 12 bodies have been deposited at the Karachi and Rara hospital mortuaries, while 3 children have since been buried. In a statement, the Ghana Maritime Authority described the incident as a serious breach of safety standards and pledged full transparency and decisive action. An investigative team of maritime safety inspectors and Navy personnel has been dispatched to determine the cause and identify any safety violations. The authority will also form a high-level committee to guide enforcement measures and prevent future tragedies. As part of its response, it is launching a lakeside safety operation to ensure boats comply with passenger limits, life jackets use, and permit rules. The Ghana Maritime Authority extended condolences to the bereaved families, describing the loss as a national tragedy, and urged residents to avoid boarding overloaded boats. It reaffirmed its commitment to uncovering the causes and strengthening safety across all inland waterways. For WDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
For our guest interview segment this evening, we take you back to Cameroon, where vote counting is underway following Sunday's presidential election, in which some 8 million eligible voters went to the polls to elect a new president. From publications by the Electoral Commission in the country, otherwise known as ELECEM, 12 candidates, including 1 female, were validated by the Constitutional Council for the presidential race. Joining us from Lambi is the southwest of Cameroon is a journalist, Solomon Agborem, who tells us about the voting process across his country on Sunday.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Though the turnout was quite low at the time of the opening of the polling stations at 8 a.m., 7 hours into the voting process, we still observe that the turnout was timid in some of the polling stations that we visited. But the rest of the remaining 4 hours were very determining in terms of the participation of electorates. It is important to note that we have a few hitches here and there towards the end of the close of the polling stations across the country. But back in my city, the turnout was satisfactory as per the elections governing body, better known here in the short form, ELECEM. So by and large, it's been an election with very high stakes, an election with enthusiasm, an election with high hopes. The race that started with 12 different opposition parties ended up to zoom into just 2. The incumbent President Paul Biya and presidential aspirant, former Minister of Communication and erstwhile Minister of Employment and Vocational Training, Issa Chiroma Bakari.
What are some of the concerns leading up to the elections? I mean, what are citizens yearning for?
They are yearning for better living conditions. They are yearning for clean environment. They are yearning for basic provision of basic amenities. They are yearning for good roads. They are yearning for good jobs. They are yearning for effective participation in the democratic process. And they decided that they are going to take their own destiny into their hands. Now, Hassan, it has been so different, like we have covered in past elections. In 2018, when we covered the last presidential elections, it wasn't like this. The turnout was massive. But this year, as per the opening of the polling station, it was timid but effective. Effective in what sense? People came out to do what they're supposed to do. So, like they will say in French, the tendance in Cameroon is something else right now. Permit me to also highlight that we had a video that surfaced on different social media platforms in Cameroon, where a vehicle belonging to the gendarmerie, one of the elements of the forces of law and order, was set ablaze in the town of Garoua, the native town of where presidential aspirant Issa Chiroma Bakari comes from, and that there was some kind of agitation that the ballot papers of candidate Issa Chiroma Bakari were not found at Nasarawa polling station. And so they got offended and had to go above the board to set ablaze a gendarmerie vehicle.
What worry Cameroonians the most as we speak, since ALICAM has 15 days to declare the results?
The fear of Cameroonians right now as we speak is the fact that the Constitutional Council may not paint the true picture on the ground. But again, Cameroonians peace-loving, and they remain confident in what they already have as first-hand information from the various polling stations. We were leaving one of the polling stations and we overheard the conversations that we already have the results from the polling stations and we are ready to defend these results. So the fear should be more on the Constitutional Council to do justice with the Cameroonian people. I think that is where we are right now.
Cameroonian journalist Solomon Boren in conversation with Abdullahi Hassan. Now here comes Christopher, teacher with the latest in the world of sports. Good evening, Chris.
Augustine, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm great. What's the latest?
Well, of course, we talk about the ongoing FIFA 2026 African qualifiers, and President John Dramani Mahama has urged the Black Stars of Ghana to make history after booking a spot at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Now, Ghana sealed qualifications with a hard-fought 1-0 win over Comoros in Accra Sports Stadium, courtesy a goal by Mohamed Kudus. Now, President John Dramani Mahama, in speaking to the nation, he urged the Black Stars to go into the tournament and then make an impressive statement following what they did in the year 2010 after reaching the quarterfinals against Uruguay. Now, still in the ongoing qualifiers. Now, Cote d'Ivoire chances of qualifying remains very slim. Why? Because if they don't win their game against Kenya tomorrow, the Elephants would not be able to make it to the World Cup. The Elephants actually sit on top of Group F with 23 points, yet are challenged by Gabon, who remain very confident of beating Burundi in tomorrow's encounter.
So that means it's a crucial match.
It's a crucial match. The Elephants set 23. They have 23 points, while Gabon have 22 points, and so that is very, very close. But today also there were some games played, and let me quickly bring you the results of these particular games played today. South Sudan took on Togo. It was a 0-0 encounter. Tunisia against Namibia. It was 3-0 in favor of Tunisia, thereby qualifying successfully to the World Cup. Sao Tome Principe won against Malawi 0, and then Equatorial Guinea took on Liberia. It was a 1-1 draw at the end of 90 minutes. Lesotho also defeated Zimbabwe 1-0, and then Cape Verde 3, Eswatini 0. Cameroon against Angola, it was a 0-0 game, and then Mauritius against Libya, it was also 0-0 as well. And quickly before we end, tomorrow so there are some actions that will be going on, as South Africa will be taking on Rwanda, Nigeria would also be taking on Benin, and then Algeria will be taking on Uganda. Guinea would also be facing Botswana, and then Somalia would also be facing Mozambique, and finally Senegal would also be facing Mauritania.
Thank you, Chris, for the latest sports news. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. And many thanks to Falilu So and Ismaila Kamara for the technical support. Connect with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, on Facebook, WADR English Service, and Streamline at WADR.org. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM,
FM, Riverside County. Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia. Radio Gulf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your